She thought her flight attendant uniform gave her the right to judge that a black woman didn't belong in first class. But Catherine Reynolds picked the wrong opponent. Lila Carter, the undercover CEO of SkyVenture Airlines, wasn't just a passenger. She was a storm ready to sweep away prejudice. On this fateful flight, a fiery confrontation erupted, exposing the painful truth about judgment and justice. Will Lila make the arrogant pay a price, or will prejudice prevail? Let's dive into this story of resilience, respect, and the power of truth. If you're hooked, hit that like button to show your support, share to spread the message of justice, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think Lila will do to win? Let's start this journey right now. The night flight from New York to Los Angeles glided smoothly through the pitch-black sky, the soft golden lights in the first-class cabin of SkyVenture Airlines creating a luxurious and serene atmosphere. Lila Carter, 35, sat in seat 1A, her gray sweater and jeans concealing her identity as the CEO of the very airline she was flying on. She scrolled through financial reports on her iPad, her sharp but relaxed gaze scanning the numbers, her curly hair tied back neatly to avoid drawing attention. Lila enjoyed these discreet flights where she could blend in as a regular passenger, observing how her crew performed. But tonight, she sensed a storm brewing. Catherine Kate Reynolds, a 28-year-old flight attendant, stepped into the first-class cabin, her navy blue uniform fitting snugly, a professional smile on her face but judgment in her eyes. She stopped in front of Lila's seat, hand on her hip, her voice sweet but icy. "Ma'am, I need to see your boarding pass." "This seat is for first-class passengers." Lila looked up, her calm gaze locking onto Kate's. She gave a faint smile, her finger discreetly tapping her smartwatch to start recording. "Boarding pass," she repeated, her voice soft but firm. "I gave it to the gate agent, Ms. Reynolds. Your name's Catherine, right? Do I need to remind you of my seat number?" "1A, right here." Kate frowned, her eyes scanning Lila's simple outfit, no expensive watch, no designer bag. "I'm just doing my job," Kate replied, her tone hardening. "You don't seem to fit in this section. There are empty seats in economy. I can help you move." Lila tilted her head, her smile lingering but her eyes growing colder. "Don't fit? What do you mean, Ms. Reynolds? Because I'm wearing a sweater instead of a business dress? Or because of the color of my skin?" She emphasized each word, her voice steady but like a dagger pointed at Kate. Kate's face flushed, but her arrogance kept her from backing down. "Don't make this about race," she snapped, her voice rising, catching the attention of a few nearby passengers. "I need to verify you're allowed to be here. Show me your ticket or I'm calling the cabin manager." James Nguyen, 40, a freelance journalist seated in 2B, discreetly pulled out his phone, jotting notes quickly, his eyes watching like a hunter. Lila kept her voice even, her hand resting on her iPad. "Call the manager? Fine, but I'd suggest you double-check before making a scene, Ms. Reynolds." "Are you sure you want to go down this road?" Kate let out a scoff, her eyes blazing. "Who do you think you are? You're not a VIP, and I don't have time for these games. Get out of that seat, now." She stepped closer, pointing toward the back of the plane, her voice loud enough to make passengers turn their heads. Lila raised an eyebrow, her tone now tinged with sarcasm. "VIP? I don't need a title to sit in the seat I paid for, Ms. Reynolds. But if you want to play power games, I'll show you what real power looks like." "Do you know who owns SkyVenture?" Kate cut her off, her voice sharp. "Don't try to intimidate me. I work for SkyVenture, and I know what first-class passengers look like. You're not one of them. Move, or I'm calling security." James, unable to hold back, spoke up, his voice deep but firm. "Ma'am, you're crossing a line. This woman hasn't done anything wrong. Do you have proof she's not supposed to be here?" Kate spun around, her glare practically burning James. "Who are you? Don't interfere, or I'll report you for obstructing the crew." She turned back to Lila, her voice trembling with anger. "You, get up. I won't say it again." Lila took a deep breath, her eyes now like a silent fire blazing. "Ms. Reynolds, I gave you a chance to stop. But if you want to keep going, I'll show you the consequences of judging others." She pulled an employee badge from her pocket, the silver glinting with the SkyVenture logo, but didn't show it yet. "Are you sure you want to call security? Because I promise you, they won't be on your side." Kate laughed loudly, but the laugh was shaky, as if she was starting to sense danger. "What badge? You think I'll fall for a fake? You can't fool me." She reached out, trying to snatch the badge from Lila, but Lila stepped back, her gaze icy. James shook his head, whispering into his phone as he recorded. Another passenger, an older woman, spoke up. "Young lady, you're making a scene." "Leave her alone," murmurs spread, a few people pulling out their phones to film the confrontation. Kate, realizing she was drawing attention, lowered her voice but still snapped. "Listen, I have the right to ask you to move. If you don't, I'll make you regret it." Lila smiled, her voice now like a dagger cutting through Kate's arrogance. "Regret? Ms. Reynolds, I grew up in Harlem, being told I didn't belong since I was a kid. But I built SkyVenture from nothing. You think your uniform gives you power? You're wrong, and I'm going to prove it." Kate stepped back, her eyes flashing with panic, but she tried to hold on to her confidence. You're talking nonsense. Get out of that seat, or all." Lila cut her off, her voice low but resonant. "You've gone too far, Ms. Reynolds. Get ready, because when this plane lands, you'll face the head of SkyVenture. And I promise, you won't like it." The soft golden lights couldn't ease the fiery tension around Seat 1A, where Lila Carter, 35, the undercover CEO of the airline, faced off with Catherine, Kate, Reynolds, a 28-year-old flight attendant erupting in a fit of anger. The steady hum of the plane's engines provided a backdrop, but the whispers of passengers and their curious stares turned the first-class cabin into more of a battleground than a luxurious retreat. Lila sat upright, her gaze sharp but calm, her smartwatch still recording every word. Kate, her face flushed red and eyes blazing, stood in front of her, hands on her hips, her voice harsh. "I told you to get out of that seat. Don't make me take drastic measures." Lila tilted her head, her faint smile unwavering. "Drastic measures, Ms. Reynolds?" she asked, her voice low but sharp as a blade. "What are you going to do? Drag me out of my seat in front of everyone? I'd think carefully, because I'm recording every word you say." She raised her wrist slightly, the silver glint of her smartwatch catching Kate's eye, making her pause for a second. Kate let out a scoff, but the laugh was shaky, as if she were trying to mask her unease. "Recording? You think I'm scared of your cheap tricks?" She stepped closer, her eyes scanning the leather carry-on bag on the seat next to Lila. "What's in this bag? Fake papers? Or are you hiding something?" Without waiting for a response, Kate reached out, yanking the bag hard, causing the strap to slip off the seat. Lila sprang to her feet, grabbing the bag to stop her, her eyes now a blazing fire. "Ms. Reynolds, touching my belongings is crossing the line. Put the bag down, now." Her voice rang out, not loud but commanding enough to make several nearby passengers turn their heads. Kate, fueled by the challenge, pulled harder, shouting, "You don't get to order me around. I'm checking this bag, and you're getting out of this cabin right now." In the struggle, Kate shoved Lila hard, causing her to stumble, her shoulder slamming into the armrest. A small, cracked, echoed as Lila's iPad fell to the floor, its screen splitting with a jagged line. The first-class cabin erupted in murmurs. An older woman in seat 3C gasped, "My goodness, what is she doing?" A younger man pulled out his phone, starting to record, whispering, "This has to go online." James Nguyen, the freelance journalist in seat 2B, jumped up from his seat, his voice deep but authoritative. "Ms. Reynolds, stop right now. You have no right to touch a passenger or their belongings." Kate spun around, her glare practically burning James. "Who are you, huh? Sit down or I'll report you for obstructing the crew." She turned back to Lila, still clutching the bag, her voice trembling with rage. "Listen here, I'm calling security, and you'll be dragged off this plane in handcuffs." Lila, rubbing her aching shoulder, stood tall, her eyes now a storm. "Security? Ms. Reynolds, you just shoved me in front of dozens of witnesses. Who do you think security will side with when they hear this recording? She raised her smartwatch, her voice icy. Or when they see the videos everyone's filming? She gestured toward the passengers, where 3 people were pointing their phones at Kate. Kate looked around, panic flashing in her eyes as she noticed the blinking lights from the phones. You're not allowed to record," she yelled, her voice breaking. "Turn off your phones now, or I'll cancel this flight." James stepped closer, flashing his press badge, his voice sharp. "I'm James Nguyen, and I've recorded everything you just did. You shoved a passenger, insulted her, and threatened the entire cabin. Want to cancel the flight? Go ahead, but I promise my article will be front-page news tomorrow morning." Scattered applause broke out among the passengers. A middle-aged man shouted, "She's gone too far. Apologize to her." The older woman added, "Young lady, you should be ashamed of your behavior." The murmurs grew louder, forming a wall of pressure bearing down on Kate. Kate, her face pale, stepped back, but still tried to hold on to her arrogance. "You people don't understand. I'm just doing my job." She pointed at Lila, her voice trembling. "She doesn't belong here. I know what first-class passengers look like, and she's not one of them." Lila picked up her cracked iPad, her gaze now like a dagger piercing through Kate. "Doesn't belong here," she repeated, her voice low but resonant. "Ms. Reynolds, I grew up in Harlem, being told I wasn't good enough since I was a kid. But I built SkyVenture from nothing. You think your uniform gives you the right to judge me? You're wrong, and when this plane lands, you'll see who I really am." Kate opened her mouth to reply, but another flight attendant, an older woman, rushed over, whispering in her ear, "Kate, stop." A passenger called for the chief purser. "You're causing a huge problem." Kate turned back to Lila, her eyes wavering between anger and fear, but still snapped, You're not done. I'll report you." Lila smiled, her voice now like a verdict. "Report me, Ms. Reynolds. I'm the one who will be writing a report about you. And I promise, it won't be pretty." She sat back down, her gaze never leaving Kate, as if watching a cornered animal. Lila stood slowly, her gaze locked on Kate, her voice low but resonant, like a verdict being delivered. "Ms. Reynolds, you had your chance to stop. You chose not to listen. Now hear this clearly. I am Lila Carter, CEO of SkyVenture, this airline. Seat 1A is mine, and you just insulted the head of the company you work for." The first-class cabin erupted in murmurs. A young passenger blurted out, "Oh my gosh, she's the big boss." The older woman in seat 3C clapped, laughing loudly, "Serves her right." Kate stumbled back, her lips trembling, her eyes filled with panic. You're lying," she stammered, her voice shaky, as if the foundation of her arrogance was crumbling. "No way, you can't be the CEO." Lila pulled her SkyVenture employee badge from her pocket, the silver logo glinting under the cabin lights. She handed it to the older flight attendant who had stepped in to intervene, her voice calm. "Please verify it, and kindly contact the chief purser. I'd like to report Ms. Reynolds' behavior, insulting a passenger, assaulting me, and threatening to cancel the flight. I'll also need the Los Angeles airport manager ready when we land." The older flight attendant, whose name tag read Susan, took the badge, her eyes widening as she read Lila Carter, CEO. She nodded, her voice anxious. "Yes, Ms. Carter, I'll report this immediately." Susan turned to Kate, her gaze stern. "Kate, go back to the crew area now. Don't make this worse." Kate, her face pale as a ghost, screamed, "She's faking it. There's no way, I was doing my job." But her voice broke, and the passengers' stares now felt like arrows piercing her. A middle-aged man shook his head, saying loudly, "You messed up, lady. Apologize to her." James Nguyen, the freelance journalist in seat 2B, stood up, holding up his press badge, his voice deep but sharp. "Ms. Reynolds, I'm James Nguyen, a freelance reporter. I've recorded and documented everything you did, insulting Ms. Carter, shoving her, and threatening passengers. My article will go online the moment this plane lands. What do you want me to write about you? A dedicated flight attendant or a discriminatory one?" The passengers clapped, a young woman shouting, "Post the article." She needs to be fired. Kate spun around, her eyes wild with panic, her trembling hand pointing at James. You have no right. I'll sue you for filming without permission." James smiled, his voice cold. "Without permission? You assaulted a passenger in front of dozens of witnesses, and they're filming you. Who are you going to sue?" He gestured toward the passengers, where 5 people still held their phones, flashlights blinking. "You dug your own grave, Ms. Reynolds." Lila, still standing, turned to Kate, her voice now a final warning. "Ms. Reynolds, I don't want to ruin you, but you crossed the line. You insulted me not just as a passenger, but because of the color of my skin. You think I don't belong here? I built Skyventure from a dream in Harlem, where I was called unworthy my whole life. But today, you'll learn that judging others comes with a price." Kate stepped back, her eyes now like those of a cornered animal. I didn't mean it like that," she stammered, her voice weak and unconvincing. I was following protocol. My boss told me to maintain the first-class image, and you didn't look." Lila cut her off, her voice icy. "Image? You mean you were taught that black people don't belong in first class? Ms. Reynolds, Skyventure's protocol is to respect every passenger, and you violated that. When this plane lands, I'll make sure you face the consequences." Susan, the older flight attendant, grabbed Kate's arm, pulling her away. "Enough, Kate. Come with me, now." Kate tried to pull free, her eyes frantic, but finally lowered her head, stumbling toward the crew area, the sound of her boots echoing weakly. The passengers burst into loud applause, one shouting, "She deserves to be fired." Lila sat back down, her gaze softening but still burning with determination. She turned to James, giving a small smile. "Thank you, Mr. Nguyen. Your article will help this story reach the right people." James nodded, his eyes gleaming. "Ms. Carter, I'm not just writing for justice. I'm writing for people like you, those who change the game. Can I get your contact info? I'd love to interview you after this." Lila smiled, handing him her business card. "Absolutely, but let's wait until we land. We're not done yet." She glanced toward the crew area where Kate had disappeared. She knew that when the plane touched down, Kate would face a storm far bigger, a storm called justice. The passengers settled back into their seats, but the whispers didn't stop. Their videos remained on their phones, and James's article was already taking shape in his mind. Lila closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. She wasn't just defending her dignity, she was sending a message that no one gets to judge others based on prejudice. The Skyventure plane touched down at Los Angeles International Airport under a brilliant sunset, but the atmosphere in the small meeting room at the airline's management area was as heavy as a courtroom. Lila Carter, 35, sat at the head of the table, her gray sweater and jeans now exuding an undeniable air of authority. In front of her was Kate Reynolds, 28, no longer the arrogant first-class flight attendant. Kate sat with her head bowed, her navy blue uniform wrinkled, her hands clasped tightly as if clinging to her last shred of dignity. Beside Lila was Michael Torres, Skyventure's airport manager, his stern gaze scanning the documents in front of him. James Nguyen, the freelance journalist, sat in the corner, his phone recording on the table, his sharp eyes observing every moment. Michael broke the silence, his voice deep but firm. "Ms. Reynolds, we've reviewed the audio from Ms. Carter's smartwatch, the plane's camera footage, and the videos from passengers. You insulted Ms. Carter, assaulted her, and threatened to cancel the flight. Do you have anything to say?" Kate looked up, her eyes red, her voice trembling. I'm sorry, Ms. Carter. I didn't know you were the CEO. I was just following protocol. My boss told me to maintain the first-class image, and I thought you didn't belong there." Lila tilted her head, her gaze sharp but not hostile. "First-class image, Ms. Reynolds," she repeated, her voice low. "You mean you were taught that a black woman, even if she paid for seat 1A, still doesn't fit that image? Or did you decide that because of the color of my skin?" Kate lowered her head, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't mean it like that," she stammered. "I was under pressure from my boss, from the company. They said to make sure first-class passengers looked luxurious. I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Please, don't fire me. This is the only job I have." Lila took a deep breath, her gaze now tinged with compassion but still resolute. "Ms. Reynolds, I grew up in Harlem, where I was called unworthy since I was a kid. My mom was a janitor, my dad a bus driver. I was once turned away from a restaurant for not fitting in. But I built SkyVenture from nothing, not to become what you think is luxurious, but to prove that everyone deserves respect, no matter what they look like." The room fell silent. Michael nodded, his eyes full of respect. James, still recording, whispered, "Ms. Carter, your story needs to be told. It's not just about today." Lila turned to Kate, her voice now like a verdict. "Ms. Reynolds, you didn't just insult me. You insulted every passenger who's ever been judged for their appearance, their skin color, or their clothes. SkyVenture doesn't tolerate that behavior. You're fired, effective immediately." Kate burst into sobs, her voice choked. "Please, Ms. Carter, I need this job. I'll apologize publicly. I'll do anything you want." She turned to Michael, her eyes pleading. "Mr. Torres, please. I've worked here for 3 years. I didn't mean to." Michael shook his head, his voice cold. "Ms. Reynolds, you were already warned once before for complaining about passengers of color. You didn't learn. Ms. Carter's decision is final." Lila raised her hand, signaling Michael to stop. She looked directly at Kate, her voice softer but firm. "Ms. Reynolds, I'm not firing you to ruin you. I'm doing this to protect others from your judgment. But I hope you learn from this. Respect isn't something you get to give only to those you deem worthy. It's everyone's right. Take this lesson with you, and don't let it go to waste." Kate lowered her head, tears falling onto the table. I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I didn't realize how wrong I was until now." James stood, his voice deep but powerful. "Ms. Carter, I'm writing about this, but I also want to tell your story, from Harlem to SkyVenture. And I have a question. What will you do to make sure this doesn't happen again?" Lila smiled, her eyes blazing with determination. "Mr. Nguyen, I'm launching a new training program for SkyVenture staff on diversity, respect, and anti-bias. Today's incident will be the first lesson. I want every passenger, from first class to economy, to feel valued." Michael nodded, adding, "We'll also review that image policies Ms. Reynolds mentioned. If there's pressure from higher-ups pushing staff into bias, we'll put an end to it." Lila stood, her gaze lingering on Kate one last time. "Ms. Reynolds, I don't forgive your actions, but I hope you find a way to make things right. Don't let this mistake define you." She turned to Michael. "Make sure she leaves safely, and prepare a memo for the staff about the policy changes." Kate, still crying, was escorted out by a staff member, her figure disappearing behind the door. James pocketed his phone, his eyes gleaming. "Ms. Carter, my article will go viral. You did something big today." Lila smiled, her voice soft but resolute. "No, Mr. Nguyen, the big thing will happen when we change how people see each other. This is just the first step." Lila Carter's story is a powerful reminder that prejudice doesn't just hurt others, it destroys the person who holds it. Lila, a black woman and CEO of SkyVenture, faced discrimination from flight attendant Catherine Reynolds, who judged her based on her skin color and simple clothing. Instead of backing down, Lila used her intelligence, composure, and a recording to turn the tables, firing Kate and sending a clear message. Everyone deserves respect, regardless of appearance or status. Lila's journey teaches us that justice isn't just a personal victory, it's about standing up for everyone's dignity, as she turned the incident into an opportunity to change the culture of the airline industry. Kate, though wrong, was a product of systemic pressure, unspoken rules that pushed her into bias. Her late regret reminds us that judging others can lead to irreparable consequences. James Nguyen, the freelance journalist, represents the power of media and community in spreading the truth, turning Lila's story into a spark of inspiration. From Harlem to first class, Lila proved that your past doesn't define you, your resilience and compassion do. This story asks, have you ever judged someone based on their appearance? Or been treated unfairly just for not fitting in? reflect and act. Respecting others is the first step to building a fair society. Lila didn't just fight for herself, she fought for everyone who's ever been looked down on. We can do the same by speaking up, listening, and changing our own perspectives. Let Lila's story inspire you. Have you ever witnessed or experienced prejudice? Share your story in the comments. We want to hear your voice. If Lila, Kate, and James's journey touched your heart, hit that like button to show your support. Share to spread the message of respect, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more meaningful stories. Together, we can build a community where everyone is seen for their true worth. See you in the next video. Keep joining us to explore stories that change perspectives.